acknowledge the traditional custodians of the ground we stand on and thank them for allowing Papa to tell stories on these glorious lands we share.
In this episode of 3 Food Memories, you'll meet a forager, food scientist, and the longest-lasting female contestant on Alone Australia, who endured 70 days in the Tasmanian wilderness before tapping out. We should mention she didn't tap out because she'd run out of food or her shelter had blown away. It was for another, far more important reason. Joining us from her old stomping grounds in Inverness, Scotland, Corinne Ooms. Welcome to 3 Food Memories.
Hiya, how are you?
Oh, look, I'm very, very well. But you're back in the Highlands where you grew up. How does that feel?
Oh, it's so surreal. I don't come back as often as I'd like because there's so much adventuring to be done in Tassie. So it's been a while since I've been back. And it's almost like, you know, when you meet an ex from a long time ago, like a long ago lover, and you've got that familiarity but slight awkwardness because
I like to keep them a distance away.
It's like there's some memories and familiarity and nostalgia, but you're not connected anymore. It's like you're strangers, but you've got all the memories. That's what it feels like coming home.
When was the last time you were in Inverness?
I was here for my granny's 90th. Yeah, it must have been about 4 or 5 years ago. And then prior to that, it was for the Scottish independence, which was ages ago.
So when you were away from Scotland, do you think about it? Do you think about all the traditions and the experiences you had there? Or you're an adventurer, so you're always looking for the next new fab thing to draw in and soak up?
I don't get homesick because Tassie's so beautiful. It's my home. There's just so much to do there. And my life is now in Tasmania. I've got an amazing group of friends. I've got my little cottage that keeps me so busy. So I don't really think about home very much. Well, Scotland. I call Tasmania my home now. And it's been 12 years since I was living in Scotland. Probably more than that because I was traveling a fair bit before I moved to Australia. But I can't deny the lasting impact it has on who I am and how I act. And, you know, there's very small, subtle cultural differences, like sense of humor and yeah, the food is slightly different, but essentially Tassie and Scotland is as close as you can get to being the same country while being as far apart on the different other side of the world as possible.
So the haggis didn't fall far from the tree.
I went pretty far, but yeah, no haggis in Tassie.
Now, a forager. I said in the introduction, I said you're a forager. Tell us what a forager does and is.
To me, foraging is a lifestyle. It's a way of viewing the world and the way of viewing your connection to the world and your place in your environment. It's like it's never switched off in my brain. Whenever I go anywhere, even just walking to the bus, driving around, I somehow automatically pick out, oh, there's a quince tree, or oh, there's some plantain. It's like a subconscious magnet where I just notice things. Foraging for me is like a way of life, and it's something I can't switch off.
So you're tuned into the natural environment. So before, we became civilized, this is what humans did, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it's ingrained in all of us. It's just we've tuned ourselves to use that skill in a different way. Like some people are really great at op shopping and finding bargains, and I am absolutely useless at shopping. So yeah, we've all got that skill. It's just how we tune into it and utilize it.
So it's a form of an intuition, isn't it? Is really like you said, there are op shoppers and there are foragers.
Mm-hmm.
You have a way of tapping into You have a way of tapping into knowing. Where did this knowing, where did this knowledge come from? Is it something that you were taught as a young child and that has stayed with you? Is it a parent, grandparent thing?
Well, the actual skill of foraging and appreciating what there is in nature came from my dad. So um, he's still in the Highlands of Inverness, back still in our family home. And he would take me out mushroom foraging and um, point out the berries. I remember one time we were visiting my aunt and we pulled over at the side of the road because he spotted some elderberries on the tree. And I was wearing this beautiful white dress. I must have been about 6 years old. I was so cute. And he was like, "Oh, elderberries." Pull over the car, get out. And I start, of course, as a 6-year-old, fruit on the tree, I start tucking in.
Like we would do mulberries in Australia, like, the big
Yeah,
mulberry
yeah,
trees that
yeah,
we
yeah.
have.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And of course, the berries took priority, and elderberries are very, very black. So, yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but I think apparently I was sick because I ate too much. So, yeah, my beautiful white dress before I got to my aunt's to the family gathering, I was just this purple mess. So, yeah, I think foraging was just a part of life even back then as a child, just like, oh, look, there's some mushrooms, there's some wild blackberries, there's some raspberries. Pull over, got to get them.
Now just a question here. The mushroom ingredient has been a big thing in Australia over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
How can you tell what is not a good mushroom and what is foe and what is friend?
Look, mushrooms are one of the dodgiest things you could forage for. So if you're not 120% certain, don't forage for it. So in Tasmania, I don't really forage that much. One, because I'm not as confident as I am back in Scotland, and two, because there seems to be a really competitive foraging culture for mushrooms in Tasmania. And in some places, they're over foraged, which is not good. But in Scotland, because it's my old haunts, I know where to go. I go back to the same place year after year. I only take exactly what I know, which is things like chanterelle and a couple boletus species and maybe some incaps or puffballs if I catch them early enough, because they're really obvious. And then everything else I don't even try. If you think about the nutritional value that mushrooms provide, it's not worth the risk of poisoning versus the nutrition you get from it.
So it is that weighing up. Is that what it is when you're
Yeah,
foraging? Okay, what am I going to get from this? Is it going to
yeah,
be advantageous?
yeah. It's a cost benefit for everything. If you're climbing a tree, you don't want to waste your energy climbing to the top of the tree to get the last apple. Everything is a cost benefit analysis. The cost benefit is not just to yourself, it's also to the environment. You don't want to pick the last of something and risk it not coming back in the future. You don't want to over harvest a mushroom patch and then risk it being dilapidated a couple years later.
Now, before we move into your 3 food memories, a very big congratulations is due here. Why am I congratulating you?
Oh, I don't know. Is it
You're having a
a
baby.
little bump on the way? Yes. Yeah.
Now, how many months?
Oh, what am I at now? Like 26 weeks? Yeah, I'm really bad at keeping track. I think it's 26 weeks. So it's enough I can feel movement now. It's a boy. He's been really good. No nausea, just chilling. Yep. Makes me permanently hungry. So yeah, that's the only downside I've noticed. Just can't stop eating. But then I felt that since coming out of alone, just basically since coming out alone till now, I just can't stop eating.
And we'll get into that, but that is actually the reason why you tapped out of the competition,
It
wasn't it?
was one of the reasons. It was a big driver. I think I didn't appreciate how strong the pull for human connection would be. I thought, oh, this will be easy. hunger will make me tap out for sure. I'm not going to miss anyone. I'm used to being on my own, but oh, it was so strong. I'd say my cravings for human connection, just things like a hug, was just as strong as my cravings for food, probably even stronger actually. And yeah, one of the reasons I tapped out was thinking, yep, I'm ready for this next chapter. What am I doing out here? I think I'm done with this adventure. Let's move on to the next one, which is baby and family,
Being a
being a
mama.
mama.
Your first food
Mm.
memory is the wallaby and fern soup you ate daily
Yes.
on Alone.
And that was so good. I don't think people appreciate how uplifting it is to have a warm meal every day. We take it for granted, just something hot in your mouth and in your belly.
What does hot do?
Oh, it just warms you from the inside out. It just makes you feel safe, and it has that kind of comfort of, yeah, this is home now. I'm having a hot meal. I am now home. It was so good. And the soup was actually really tasty. It took a lot of trial and error to get it good. It probably took me more than a month before I figured out how to cook the different plants in a way that made them taste good. So not just extract the most nutrients from them, but also make it the most palatable. Because a lot of these plants are actually really bland or really bitter.
So, had you done some research on the ingredients before you went into Alone?
Yeah, I knew what was edible, but I didn't know, and I knew how the Tasmanian Aboriginal people would prepare and cook them. So I knew that. So I had a good basis to start on. I had a good, yeah, good start on what to do with them and what was edible. But I think with our modern palate, we're just so spoilt for flavor. So things that aren't sweet and salty and fatty, we're just like, ugh. And it took me a while to get used to the either bland or bitter flavors and work out how to process them in ways that make them more palatable for my spoiled palate.
When you did the research of how Indigenous Tasmanian people cook their food, how did that compare to the foraging that you had grown up with?
Yeah, it made me appreciate how Scotland was my home. That's where I grew up. So I had years and years to know and learn and understand and play around with these ingredients. But in Tasmania, I had to learn everything from scratch. These are all brand new flavors to me, brand new plants to me that I was completely unfamiliar with. So yeah, it took a lot of experimenting. So it's not just the knowledge, but having my, I guess, a bit of background in food science helped a bit with the experimenting, knowing how to leach out the bitterness.
And how do you do that? How do you pull that out?
Oh, it's a lot of trial and error. So when I was processing, say, the manfern hearts, I could see the texture was soft after boiling it for a while, like boiled potato, but had this horrible bitterness that I just couldn't stomach. And then I thought about other food sources that are bitter that we eat, well, that are originally bitter, things like olives and acorns as well, and how they are leached with water to remove the bitterness, often overnight or sometimes for days to remove the bitterness. So I did that. So I was leaching the manfern hearts, soaking them in water and draining the water. And I could see as I poured the water out that it would be brown each time. And I kept changing the water, pouring it out until the water ran clear. And then after that, when I boiled it, the hearts were soft like potato and didn't have the bitterness. So they were just like boiled potato.
Oh,
So that had the
yum.
nice texture, the soft kind of filling, starchy texture with, and it kind of just tasted a bit like turnip or like a slightly funky potato. And then my favorite thing, which I loved so much, was the batwing fern fiddleheads, which to me tasted exactly like green beans, kind of green beans crossed with asparagus.
Ah,
So I read that Indigenous Tasmanians would roast them over coals. Tried that, like, nah, not feeling it. Tried different ways, and I found that just cooking it for a short, but throwing it in the stew for a short time, kept the crunch, and just added that extra texture. So I think the stew that I made, just with the amount of different ingredients, with the different textures, different flavors, made it feel like a proper meal. And then the wallaby jerky as well gave it that meatiness. And I boiled the bones.
You boiled the
I
bones.
boiled
Let's
the
you
I
boil.
boiled
Yes,
the
you boiled the
bones
bones.
until there were literally no bones left. And I didn't realize how because I've never tried this, but you can actually boil the bones until they are soft enough to eat and chew. So I actually it probably took about, I don't know, probably about 20 boils before all the bones were soft enough to dissolve and be eaten. So I actually ate the bones, and that was a good source of calcium and other minerals.
Let's go back to the bit where you had to kill the wallaby.
Mm.
Yeah, first of all, you had to force yourself to eat a grub. Then then you killed a wallaby, and this wallaby gave you a big source of energy and sustenance to get through the competition. How did that feel?
It was pretty surreal. To be honest, I didn't think I would catch a wallaby. I thought I'd be relying on fishing, and they didn't show that in the show, but I was fishing every day and getting no luck. And I just made a few traps. Actually, I made about 3 or 4 traps. I made a couple bird traps and 3 wallaby traps. And I wasn't getting any luck on them. It looked easy, but it really wasn't. The wind kept blowing them down. It kept getting tangled up in things. And yeah, the wind kept setting it off. So every day I had to reset the traps, and I gave up on the traps. And then, yeah, that one day, I don't know what happened. It must, a lot of luck. And it happened to be a big fat male as well. He was a big wallaby. And the actual catching it part was just a blur from realizing that the trap was gone and me figuring out, oh, it must have caught a wallaby and the wallaby's taken off. And then that adrenaline hit, and then stalking after it, like finding the bits of fur and bits of string kind of left behind as it had taken off. Yeah, it was just all a blur. And I think after that happened, I wasn't keen to do it again. It was like, right, I can do this. I've done it. Tick. I don't want to do that again.
How long did that wallaby last?
Right to the end, I kept one last little strip of the wallaby jerky for day 69. And I was like, right, day 70, I'm going to tap out. So I meticulously measured it out for as long as I was planning on staying. So I had 70 days in my head, and I measured it out to last 70 days. And I'm very impressed by my willpower, because there were nights that I was like, there's jerky right in there. I could just grab another couple slices. Nope, nope, because another couple slices mean one less day. So I was very good at rationing it out.
Does does it get exhausting? Just, I mean, it is exhausting. You know, your energy levels are low. You're on your own. There are no hugs, but that constant just keeping up to make sure that you're going to get through. Is that bit even exhausting? I remember watching, people in the competition, making sure that they were warm enough and not losing their energy so they could just get through the next couple of hours. What did it do to the mind is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think I was in a bit more of a fortunate situation in that I never had an empty stomach, not one day. Maybe, no, maybe the first couple weeks I had an empty stomach because I wasn't catching anything, and I was still getting used to foraging on that land. But from catching that wallaby onwards until day 69, I didn't have an empty stomach one day. In fact, most days I was eating twice a day. So that having a hot meal twice a day really does lift your spirits. And I could feel myself getting weaker, because although I was eating every day, the plants didn't have enough calories in them. And the wallaby jerky, the protein, it had heaps of protein, but not enough fat in them. So I wasn't getting calories from the meat either. So could tell I was losing weight. I could tell I wasn't getting enough sugars and carbohydrates and calories from my soup. But mentally, it felt actually really, really good. It was almost like a holiday. It was quite relaxing being without social media and work emails and phone. And I was just a big kid playing in the bush.
Speaking of foraging, foraging not only happens for you on the land, but it happens in the water. And this is when you went into the competition thinking you'd be able to forage, as in fishing.
Yes.
What's it like going to harvest something like an abalone and oysters straight from the sea? Because that's something that you do in Tasmania, isn't it?
Oh, that's so good. I think if we were put by the sea, we all would have lasted heaps longer. The sea has so much, it's so bountiful if you know what to look for and if you're in a safe, clean area. Just the treasure hunt of going in there into this different world and looking around and then diving down and then shipping up. You know, you have to work for it. You're not just picking something off a shelf. You're actually having to work for it. And that adds to the reward of actually eating it. And then coming back up, and you're like, yeah, got one. And then stuffing it down my wetsuit and then going back down again. And I really should get a bag instead of stuffing it down my wetsuit. But um, yeah, because it's kind of like crawling around in there, like, whoa. Um, and then coming back on shore and like, right, process it straight away, keep it fresh, and then yeah, cooking it on the beach is just so good. And you don't need much to get the flavor of the abalone out. Just as is, bit of butter, maybe a bit lemon. So good. Yum.
Yum. So why did you move to Tasmania? You moved there 12 years ago. What was the prompt to head down to the Apple Isle?
Australia was just one of my many countries on my travel list. So I never planned on living in Australia. In fact, I had a boyfriend in Norway at the time, and we were always planning on going back to Europe. But then, oh, where was I? I think I traveled from Western Australia. I was doing it proper roughing style. So hitchhiking, sleeping rough, like in parks. I had no money. I think I had about $70 left to my name at that point, and ended up in Melbourne thinking, oh, what do you do in Melbourne with $70? This is stressful. And I think I spent the last of my money on a one-way ticket to Tassie because after being out bush in Western Australia and South Australia, arriving in Melbourne was such a culture shock. I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out the city,
Mm.
get me somewhere green or somewhere remote. And Tasmania actually wasn't on my list of places. But then I thought, well, might as well. So I bought a ticket to Tasmania and then I volunteered for the Dunalley bushfire relief. So I was helping out there, helping the farmers, after the fires went through. And through that, I got to see a beautiful part of Tasmania down the Tasman Peninsula. And I saw a job in the paper looking for a quality assurance manager in a seafood factory. I thought, I'll give it a shot, see what happens, just out of curiosity. And I got the job. They offered to sponsor me. I thought, well, yeah, why not? There was no plan. It was just winging it the whole time. And I never felt like leaving ever since. I never got the itchy feet syndrome again. I guess I'm still here.
But your second food memory
Yes.
keeps you connected back to the homeland. Potato scones in Scotland.
Oh my God, they're so good.
Well, basically, they're basically gnocchi, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Gnocchi pancakes.
gnocchi pancakes.
Fried in
Oh, they're
butter.
so good. So if you think of a gnocchi, that kind of chewiness, but think of it like flattened like pancake and then fried in butter. So it's golden and crispy on the outside, but still got that kind of chewiness in the middle. And then you eat that with a proper Scottish breakfast, which is eggs, bacon, sausages, mushrooms, fried tomato, haggis, black pudding. I don't understand why it doesn't exist in Australia. I think I might start up a potato scone business.
Do the potato scones have a crispy outside?
Yeah, so you fry it so it's nice and golden crispy. It's very thin, like a pancake, but it's crispy when you fry it on the outside with butter, nice and golden, chewy on the inside.
Yeah. And what's your earliest memory of the potato scone?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's just always part of life. I don't think it's
Like foraging.
yeah. Potato scones is part of life. A fried cooked breakfast is not the same to me, even now, without potato scones.
You know, the Scots are renowned. You would know this better than me. The Scots are renowned for bad health and short but very well-lived livelihoods. Do you think if more people got out and about and went foraging, they'd live longer?
Yeah, I think it's not just the diet that foraging provides and not just the exercise, but also the break away from the mental break away from things. Like foraging can actually be quite monotonous and boring and therefore quite meditative. So just if you find a good patch of mushrooms or berries, just there, you can be there for hours just picking away. And it's actually really meditative and just being without your phone, just being by yourself and having that quiet time to think out in nature, I think is really healthy.
So potato scones in Scotland is like nothing else. Another traditional Scottish dish or a treat is the deep fried Mars bar. How do you feel about that one?
I've tried it. I think everyone's got to try everything once. I think it's a bit overrated. It's a little bit sweet for my taste. But another thing they have here, which again I've tried and don't rate, is the deep fried pizza. It's like just get
Ugh.
anything and deep fry it. It's so bad. And the first time I tried a deep fried pizza, of course it was after a night out drunk, and you bite into this pizza, which is, a cheap pizza, and it's dripping in oil and fat when you bite into it because it's been fried in oil. So of course all the dough has soaked up the oil. It's so gross. So no, don't think we should deep fry everything.
When you moved to Tasmania, you hand renovated an 1860s cottage. Now, you and your partner renovated this bushrangers cottage using nothing but YouTube tutorials and your own hands. How did you know it was a bushrangers cottage?
Yeah, I didn't actually know anything about the story of Martin Cash or the history of the cottage. I just thought it was a really cute cottage on 10 acres of bushland, so close to Hobart. Um, and I went along to the auction back in 2017 just as a sticky beat. I wasn't intending on buying it. And then no one put their hand up. Not a single person bid. And it hadn't even reached the vendor's reserve price. And they were like, no one's really. And quite spontaneously, I just went, yeah, right. And I got it. And I got it for under the asking price. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, shit, how do I pay for this? Now, now what do I do? I wasn't expecting this. So I don't know if it was just complete luck or intuitive, but zero regrets. It's such a beautiful little project. And the history, now that I've learned the history about it, is fascinating. I'm not the type of person that, celebrates the whole bushranger, Ned Kelly lifestyle, but I do find it interesting, just the challenges and the world that they lived in. It was tough, and I can appreciate how people struggled to get by. So I found that really interesting. And yeah, trying to preserve that history in the cottage and bring it back to its a lovely heritage style. It's been a challenge, but it's a fun challenge.
So you would imagine that the previous owner, or the original owner of the little cottage, was also a forager and knew the land to grab the food from.
Oh, he had a different style of foraging. He used a gun and foraged mainly stuff from people.
Oh, so you what was his name?
Martin Cash. He was an Irish convict and he escaped from Port Arthur twice, swam across the Eagle Hawk Neck, was on the run with two of his mates for ages and they were trying to capture him. And apparently, according to his own autobiography, he was a gentleman bushranger. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. He killed a policeman, so he wasn't all good.
Do you think that's why no one else bid for the property?
I think I was just this was back in 2017, and I think people were turned off by the amount of work that needed done on the place.
Ah,
And then investors were turned off because it was heritage and they weren't allowed to do most things to it. So I think I fell in the gap of residential, but masochistic enough to take on this project.
brave. Brave and ready for the challenge. Your third food memory, it comes from the Philippines.
Yes.
Tell me about this dish.
So my mom's from the Philippines, and I appreciate now what an interesting culture that was, the blend of cultures, both Scottish and Filipino, East West, mingled together, and how that has shaped my tastes in food and shaped me as a person as well. One of my favorite dishes, probably one of the most common, is pancit, which is a rice noodle dish with vegetables and chicken, and you squeeze a calamansi on top of it, which is a tiny little lime, and it's so fresh, and that calamansi gives it a nice zing. It would be cooked for parties, and anyone who knows Filipinos knows they love parties and they love gatherings, and their gatherings are all focused around food and chat and sometimes karaoke, but mostly food. And you go to a party, even if it's any kind of party, even if whether it's a funeral or a wedding, there's so much food everywhere. And yeah, pancit was one of my favorites.
Did you spend much time in the Philippines growing up?
Yeah, we'd go over to visit family maybe, oh, for a while we were going once a year, which was pretty pricey, but my mum would get homesick and we had huge family over there. So yeah, spent a fair bit of time over there, but I would say it was more as a visitor.
I mean, very different from Scotland.
Yeah, it would be more as a visitor than a place I would call home. Yeah, there's a different world of food there.
Oh, of course. Well, did you feel like a spectator
Yeah, I did.
when you were
I
visiting?
did, and it would be nice to have spent a bit more time there to have fully, I don't speak Tagalog. I was always more of a visitor and a spectator than being immersed in the culture. And it would have been nice to have spent a bit more time to fully embed myself in that culture because it is my heritage as well. Although I know I am half Filipino, I don't identify with it as strongly because I didn't get to spend as much time there. But yeah, love the food. And it's interesting how there's not many, or there's virtually no Filipino restaurants. There's pretty much every other Asian food restaurant out there, but you never see Filipino food restaurant.
No, you don't. But you do see good Filipino grocery stores.
Yeah.
There are several around not far from where I live. And I'm there for the tea. I'm there for those little calamansis.
Yeah.
I'm there for the birthday noodles. I'm there for all of that. And they're gorgeous little soft drinks that come from Manila. And then the little stickers that have been added on the side.
I reckon the reason that there's not that many restaurants is because everybody loves just cooking at home and going around to someone's house
Yes.
for meals, and it's cheaper and it's more fun. So I
Yes.
reckon everyone is just having feasts back home and no one bothers going to restaurants.
To cook it. Where did your parents meet?
They met in the Philippines. So my mum I think she just finished her degree and in fisheries, and my dad was traveling around doing some voluntary work overseas, and he studied fisheries as well. So he went to the university, and that's where they met in a university there.
So this is quite a wonderful story here because it's food science, food, food farming of sorts. The sourcing of food runs through your family. I mean, no wonder, foraging is a thing for
My
you.
mum would always tell me of her childhood and climbing up mango trees and guavas and raiding the next door neighbor's farm for guavas. And yeah, those stories just made me appreciate not just the value of food, but the joy and the excitement that going out and getting your own food from somewhere, how exciting that is. And, things like keeping your own chickens and then going down to the bottom of the garden to pick up your own eggs. Such a natural part of life that I feel like a lot of people living in suburbia and cities have lost touch of. And it brings so much joy. And then hearing the stories my mum would say growing up and the amount of joy she had going out there and stealing guava from her neighbor's garden and and going getting eggs and stuff from the bottom of the garden. So food has always been a joyous and exciting part of life.
Your mum died in her 40s after a decade battling with renal failure. How old were you when she died?
I was 20. It was more than a decade. Must have been about 15 or 16 years. And I think she was 45 when she died, which is so, so young. I'm 40 now. And thinking that, if my life ended in 5 years, that have I done everything? Yeah, I think the finality of life has been ingrained in me and has affected the way I live my life and the way I view the world and my life. So yeah, I was 20 when she died, and I think if I was any younger, it probably would have really messed me up. But because I had such a long time to accept and come to terms with it, basically my entire memory was her being sick. So I think I had quite a unique perspective to death and life.
How did she help inform that perspective and prepare you for the day for when she wasn't going to be there?
It was always something that was not feared. She was such a positive person. Like nothing seemed to get her down. And even when she was in pain or struggling, she just never let that affect her. And she always powered through. She was so strong, but also had a gentleness and acceptance of a situation. And yeah, I admire that and I strive to live to that positive of acceptance of things that you can't control and having no fear.
So her reality of the situation and the way she dealt with it was must have made it, let's not say easier, it must have made it more comforting for you during these difficult times.
I wouldn't say it was comforting. I think it was just inevitability that was just part of life. It's just something that we knew was going to happen. And I had my entire childhood into adulthood coming to terms with it. It was still hard. It was still so, so hard when it did happen because I think she lasted longer than expected. And so it was, for a while, it was a case of, is it going to happen? Is it ever going to happen? And I fully believe she held on for me until she thought I was old enough and I was settled and I finished my uni. I was on a good path, and I fully believe she held on for me, um, because I'm an only child as well. And yeah, it showed me the strength of the human character, or not just humans. You see it in other animals, in other mothers, other species, how strong they are to protect their young and how they fight. The fearlessness in them grows once they have the young. And I find that so inspiring.
Well, it must be very much so present for you now that you're becoming a mother yourself very soon. You must have that sort of inner courage and strength to take on this new role.
Yeah, I fully expect this new adventure to be one of the hardest I've ever been on because, this is 18 plus years of adventure. And
Doesn't stop there.
no, I imagine it doesn't. Um, yeah, and it's a whole different type of adventure, and I appreciate this is going to be hard. And part of my reason for waiting so long was not having that older female guidance, not having my mum around, because it's a pretty scary thing to do without having an older female guidance to reassure you and let you know, oh, look, this is normal. This is fine. You're supposed to feel this way. Don't freak out, you know?
What are you looking forward to most about being a mum?
Oh, I don't think there's any one thing. I think it's just my partner, Mark, he's so beautiful. I think just sharing that life and that adventure with him and watching that unfold. Who knows what might happen? I'm going in, like everything in life, I'm going in with no expectations and just looking forward to seeing how it unfolds and what happens and being with Mark through that. And I'm pretty confident that things are going to be good.
I mean, your mum would have been very proud of you if she were here right now. Do you ever feel her around you? Is she part of you on this journey?
Oh, that's a hard one. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a spiritual person, and I do every now and then recognize that it gives people, it gives me and gives others comfort to feel someone's presence around. I 100% believe that she has imprinted herself on me till the day I die. And the things I do and the way I think and the way I act could be attributed to her and the lessons I learned from her till the day I die. I've no doubt about that. And if there is something else out there and she is present with me, I'm also confident that she'll be proud and at peace.
You've chosen food waste and food security as your social cause. I mean, you've worked in food production industry for so long. What is it about food waste and food security that you care about so much?
I think having so much appreciation for food and the resources and also foraging lifestyle is about keeping the balance between what you take and what you give back and what you leave behind. And too often in food production these days, intensively farmed agriculture, it's taking far, far more than it's giving back. And I see so much waste on a daily basis going to different farms. So my job takes me around farms and factories and food production, primary production, all the way from the start, from where it's grown, right the way to the end where people have it in the food in their fridge. There's so much waste, like tons and tons get thrown out every day from a single factory. Oh, it's heartbreaking. As someone who loves food, seeing all that food go to waste and then knowing the amount of people that could really, really benefit from it, but just because of economy of scale, etc., the way the whole system is structured, often it is cheaper for farms and factories to dispose of it rather than transport it out and pay labor to sort through the food, separate food, and distribute it out to the public. It's actually cheaper just to dispose of tons and tons of it. And you hear about every now and then it comes up, farmers having to dump avocado and yeah, it's so
Mm,
heartbreaking. And yeah, I see it
mm,
on a daily
mm,
basis.
mm,
Even
mm, mm.
even the farms and the factories that really try their hardest to minimize waste, it's not always within their control. And in the end, it's up to the consumers to be aware of what they're purchasing, where they're purchasing it from, and also not waste from the consumer end as well. It's complex. Back in the day, it was so easy. You go grow your own veggies, you keep your own chooks, or you go down the road to the baker or the butcher and you buy your locally sourced meat from the butcher back in the days. But now it's so complex. We're getting food from the other side of the world, shipped all the way across to us. Yeah, it's fascinating, but I don't have an answer for it other than just be aware of what you're purchasing.
Are there organisations people can get involved with to push policy change in this area or change at a community level?
Yeah, I think there should be more focus on the major supermarkets and the amount of waste that they produce and the amount of perfectly good food that ends up getting thrown in the bin that could be donated to food banks or yeah, a lot of shops do that. The individual stores choose to do that. They choose to donate their leftover bread at the end of the day to food banks. But then that's not a requirement, like say in France, where supermarkets have to donate their food rather than throw it out. So it would be so good to see that policy change.
We have an MFK Fisher Serve It Forth tradition here at TFM, where our previous guest presents you with a dish. Hetty Lou McKinnon, cook and author of Community and Freshly Pressed Linger, and a bunch of other amazing vegetarian cookbooks, serves forth to you tofu basque cheesecake. I told her you were a forager, and she said maybe it can be made with mushrooms, but it's up to you to rewrite the recipe if you like. How do you feel about a tofu baked cheesecake?
Oh, I think it could work. After I came out of Alone, I discovered I'm lactose intolerant, which makes a lot of sense now looking back why I was suffering so much as I did. And it took until I came out of Alone to discover I was lactose intolerant. So yeah.
Is that like an Asian, like a lot of Asian people have an intolerance to lactose? Did you know that? It's a common thread.
Yeah, it is quite common. So
Yeah.
it could be that. It could also the gut bacteria required to break down lactose could have just disappeared during my time out bush. So it could also be that. But I definitely feel much better without dairy, which is a shame because I still eat cheese. I will, let my guts explode before I give up cheese. Things like milk and cream and cheesecake is a bit iffy for me. So I would give it
Well,
a
this
shot.
one's with tofu.
Yeah, I would give tofu cheesecake
Give it a go.
I'm not going to say no. It'll be interesting. Yeah. It's good to have an option for people who are lactose intolerant.
Now, we would like to know what you would like to serve our next guest. Now, before you give an answer, I just want to let you know that our next guest is gardener and landscape architect, Jamie Jury. What would you like to serve forward to Jamie Jury?
Oh, that's hard because he's probably already got so much good options available to him at his fingertips.
What at your fingertips would you like to hand to him?
I would love, and I haven't done it yet, I would love to serve somebody up my wallaby and fern stew that I was eating every day because it was so good and no one realizes how good it was. And I don't know if anyone's ever eaten a dish like that in their lives before. It was a very unique dish of various different ferns and wallaby and lichen and yeah, I think I'd love to maybe with a bit of salt because it's a bit bland. So
Bit of salt,
maybe a little bit of onion and yeah, good to go.
Corinne Ooms, thank you so much for being a guest on Three Food Memories and sharing your foraging stories. Happy travels.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Three Food Memories. Be sure to share the plated love and check out our 80 plus back episodes. They're still as delicious as they were when they were freshly rolled. For all things TFM, head to the socials at 3 Food Memories. For more info and to send us a message, head to 3foodmemories.com. 3 Food Memories is edited by Lauren McWhirter with original music by Russell Torrance. Nasteka la fili and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Papa's podcast. Don't forget to like